Hi everyone. So I want to, so first a quick COVID update. I did test COVID negative a few days ago. The one lingering symptom is still a cough. So you'll hear that, but no, here it is. Especially when I'm talking for longer durations, it comes up. So that continues to linger, and we'll see how long it stays. It is better though. So we'll, and I am COVID negative. Recently, I did 3 videos in quick succession. One on Mars and Gemini, I think, then one certainly on New Moon and Capricorn and the Capricorn transits that are occurring right now with the Sun and Venus, excuse me, and Mercury and the New Moon in Capricorn. And then finally, one with Jupiter transiting from Pisces to Aries on December the 20th. And by the end of the Jupiter in Aries video, everything started to become rather dense because I was trying to draw connections between all these transits. And in fairness, it's very hard to draw these kinds of connections, generally speaking, from a general reading perspective. I'm not looking at individual charts. I don't know where these transits are occurring. The correlations have to be much more specific. And I thought, I kind of want to break down these energies into bite-sized morsels so we can really look at them more individually. And I think it'll be useful, because it continues to be an important week. As I've said to you before, the week before the 25th of December and after the 25th of December, where we're at till the end of the year, are important weeks related to the eclipses, particularly the Scorpio eclipse that happened on October 25th. So there are developments on those that are taking place, and then the next set of developments around that I think will be on March the Oh, I'm so tired of this cough. I have to tell you, I can't wait for it to be done. It is just draining. On March the 5th of 2023 and then May the 5th of 2023. So it's an important developments. And as these developments are occurring, and as we get ready, I want to break down and talk about 4 transits that are occurring by the end of the year, by the 31st. First and foremost, Mercury goes retrograde in Capricorn tomorrow. And soon after goes retrograde, it conjuncts Venus in Capricorn. And on the 31st, Venus conjuncts Pluto on its way out from Capricorn. It enters Aquarius on January the 3rd, 2nd or 3rd, depending on where you are. And the final transits on the 31st is that the Sun trines the North Node. That's right. So Mercury retrograde in Capricorn on the 29th, Mercury conjuncting Venus on the 29th. These are both tomorrow. The Sun trining the North Node on the 31st and Venus conjuncting Pluto. 3 of these transits are Capricorn related. Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, Mercury conjuncting Venus in Capricorn, and Venus conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn. And the 4th is also Capricorn related insofar as the Sun from Capricorn trines the North Node in Taurus. The video to reference after you're done looking at this will be the New Moon in Capricorn video that I did a few days ago. I'll put a link to it at the end of this. Now, Mercury goes retrograde tomorrow. Some basic information. Mercury entered the shadow period on December 12th, 2022. Goes retrograde on the 29th, tomorrow. It's retrograde from December 29th, 2022 to January 18th, 2023, and then it retraces that shadow period from January 18th to February 9th, 2023. So Mercury enters Capricorn around December the 6th. It enters the its degrees, it's going to transit 3 times on December 12th. On December 29th, it's going to go retrograde. And then on January 18th, it'll go back to where it was on December the 12th. And then on February the 9th, it's going to go back to where it's going to be tomorrow. And then after that, it clears this retrograde degrees that it's going to transit 3 times. Direct, retrograde, direct, out. So when Mercury's retrograde, some of the events that we're going to be revisiting, because Mercury is driving and then all of a sudden it pauses and goes, oh, I need to reverse, and it's going to reverse and go along a certain path a second time, and then it's going to go direct and it's going to go again. Some of the events that we are going to have to re-look at, to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, go back to December the 12th. And I've been developing since then. It's an important date because, as I said, Mercury entered Capricorn on December the 6th. Venus entered Capricorn on December the 10th. And if you remember what I told you in the New Moon in Capricorn video, developments, positive developments related to the Capricorn part of your chart, and please know that this is a general reading. So if you're Aquarius rising and these transits are happening in your 12th house, it's going to be relatively positive. At the end of the day, I don't even know whether we can completely consider them necessarily positive. It's very different to have transits happening in your 12th house than in your 10th house or your 9th house or 8th house or your 5th house or your 4th house or your 2nd house. So this is a general reading. But broadly speaking, Venus's entry as a benefic into a particular part of the chart typically brings opportunities, relationship opportunities, financial opportunities. Mercury brings communication along with it. So as I've mentioned to you before, it could be that since December the 6th, but especially by the time you got to December 12th, December 14th, something may have been brought to you, and it may be that it's been brought to you already. And I refer to this as sort of an invitation to a banquet or an invitation to a meal, or I'm going to go even further and say it could be something like a job. It's some sort of portal into the future. And if you want to look at it this way because of the timing, you can almost feel like it's setting the agenda for 2023 on some level. But as I said to you, the surprise with this is that things move along, humming along, and the reason why it's so important, these transits are so important, is that these planets, as they transit through Capricorn, are trining, supporting the North Node in Taurus, squaring Chiron in Aries, and then trining again Uranus in Taurus. So Venus did that. Mercury's done that once. It's going to go retrograde and do it twice, and then go direct and do it a third time. And the Sun is in the process of doing this. And the North Node in Taurus is a very important transit right now. The eclipses of leaning into are still, as far as I'm concerned, even though the next eclipse is going to be an eclipse in Aries, as far as I'm concerned, the Taurus eclipses are still the important primary eclipse for 2023. The lunar eclipse close to the end of the year, I think it's in October, is going to be in Taurus. We have one more eclipse to go. And yes, 2023 is a transition year, but at the same time, right now the North Node is transiting through Taurus, and these trines are happening directly to the North Node. So these Taurus eclipses, where we are leaning into, where our development is, where we experience progress, learning, skill acquisition, whatever it is that we're meant to acquire, building weak muscles, so that they become stronger and we move towards greater achievement in the Taurus part of our chart. Whatever developments are happening in the Capricorn part of the chart are supporting that. And because they're happening and they're heading, it happened, at least the first set of these happened just before we sort of entered these weeks before and after Christmas and thereabouts, they kind of led us right into these 2 weeks that are important from an eclipse perspective. So the Taurus-Scorpio eclipses are very much simmering, if not boiling, on our proverbial stove. When Mercury goes retrograde, this is also something I've said, on a mundane level, things go crazy. Travel plans, bags lost, getting to the airport at the wrong time, all that kind of stuff. Meetings late, technology breaking down, traffic, just irritants and bizarre conversations with customer service or people on the phone, communication, transactions, cognition, and especially the days when Mercury is going retrograde, like right about now, the day when retrograde Mercury conjuncts the Sun, which will be on the 7th of January, right around that full moon in Cancer, and when Mercury goes direct, January the 18th, is when we feel this influence the most directly. And it's a little bit like a mental compass, which is pointing to north, all of a sudden starts to spin. And our ability to think through things is really hampered at that point in time. And as I said, crossed wires, all that kind of stuff. On a bigger level, On a higher level, Mercury retrograde can shed light and bring things to the surface and bring up things that are in our blind spot. That we just don't know of, but we need to know of. And a retrograde Mercury goes, hold on a second, you're moving forward on this plan, and you don't know this important thing. And boom, here it is. And we go, oh my God, now I've got to factor this in, and what does this mean? And blah, blah, blah. Things get revealed sometimes, and things become clear. Things have to be rethought. You have to go back to the drawing board. You have to replan. Mercury retrograde is notorious when it comes to commitments. Things that are committed to typically need to be redone. Or things that are committed to things that are done during Mercury retrograde will likely be rethought once Mercury is direct. So if you do have to sign something, and sometimes you do, be as conscious as you can, look at everything multiple times, make sure that the details are as clear so that if something was agreed on or decided or committed to when Mercury was direct in this time when maybe some sort of an offer or something came through to you, then it could just be a question of making sure that the details are there. If someone says, I'm going to give you a $1,000 signing bonus, make sure it says $1,000 when you get the offer letters to sign and not $10. Make sure the details are clear because of this kind of crossed wire thing. But just know that things that are committed to or things that are done while Mercury is retrograde typically have to be redone or rethought once Mercury is direct. And Mercury is direct for longer in the year than while Mercury is retrograde. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, you might find that a Mercury retrograde period is very different for you than for other people who have Mercury. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, I have a feeling this video is going to be kind of Mercury retrograde. I'm going to say Mercury retrograde when I mean Mercury direct and blah, blah, blah. So let me just say that again. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, you might find Mercury retrograde periods much more helpful to you in terms of being more decisive, and you might find that all of a sudden you feel like you're somehow in sync with the world in terms of tempo and processing information. People who have Mercury retrograde in their birth chart, often when other people are interacting with them who have Mercury direct in their birth chart, can seem like they have their own, take much longer to process things, time, being on time. It's just a different tempo. It's a different way of processing stuff. It's not a question of being smart or not being smart. That's not what I'm saying. It's just a different way in which communication and cognition and the handling of data and facts and the sifting, it's almost like the water takes longer to clear and it's much more deliberate in that process. But when Mercury is direct for these folks, people who have Mercury retrograde in the birth chart, they may find that more developments are happening. They're just much more decisive during that time than other people. Okay. So, Venus goes through Capricorn, trines the North Node, squares Chiron and Aries. This is the second time I'm doing this video, by the way. Talk about Mercury retrograde. Trines Uranus. Tomorrow is going to conjunct a retrograde Mercury, just freshly retrograde, almost stationary, and then on the 31st conjunct Pluto, and will be out of Capricorn and into Aquarius by January 2nd or 3rd. Venus has come in, brought an opportunity, could be a creative opportunity, financial opportunity, relationship opportunity, bestowed her gift, something from the universe, something nice, something blessed, and fascinatingly, on her way out, she conjuncts a retrograde Mercury tomorrow. Why? I'll continue to expand on that. More equally importantly, on the 31st, she conjuncts Pluto. Now, Pluto in Capricorn, I've done another video on this, and I'll put another link to it. I'll put a link to it at the end of this one. Till 2025, the Capricorn part of our chart is going through a significant transformation. And with Venus conjuncting Pluto by the end of this year, it could be that whatever that transformation is, where Capricorn sits in your chart, what house it occupies, what that house stands for, whatever this event is that has occurred, this portal into 2023, and whatever this thing is that's been developing since December 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, especially as we headed to December 14th and onwards, could very well, if I've said this already, forgive me, I'll say it again, could very well feel like a portal into 2023. It could feel like the new year is starting. But as the new year starts, and it could very well be that with the conjunction to Pluto, that positive transformations, hopefully, in the Capricorn part of our chart, are somehow cemented as a result of this opportunity. Now, that said, we run into this wrinkle of Mercury going retrograde. And I really think that over the next 3 weeks, it's almost like if you are going to get ready to be on a journey, or you're going through a portal, or developments are occurring, or you can't, it's rare to be in a place where you can just bring out your broomstick and jump on it and fly off. Things have to be done and sorted out. And some of those are mundane and logistical. But some of them, with this Mercury retrograde, trining Uranus, squaring Chiron, what needs to be healed in the Aries part of your chart, whatever is coming up in Chiron, challenges that, spurs that. These transits support the Taurus North Node and where we need to lean into, and they chafe against this Chiron in Aries so that the healing can continue. It's the friction that is needed to continue this healing process between the Capricorn part of a chart and the Aries part of the chart where the healing is taking place. So again, where does Aries sit in your chart? What house does it occupy? What does it stand for? What needs to be healed there? So the Mercury retrograde meets up with the transit of Venus, says, hey, Venus, thanks so much. I was communicating, but now let's just consider this stuff. Venus says, thanks, Mercury. You go do the reconsidering thing. I'm going to go say hi to Pluto, high-five him, seal the fact that I did my best in Capricorn and brought whatever I need to, and move into Aquarius, where Venus's transit is a lot more complicated than the Capricorn one in terms of posing challenges. And we'll get to that in another video. And Mercury retrograde says, all right, we've seen the portal, but now we've got to tackle whatever we've got to tackle, because whatever we think the plan is heading into Mercury retrograde, that's not the plan. There's more information that needs to be contended with, that needs to come up, that we need to talk through, process through. There will be crossed wires. You need to contend with things. Plans need to be solidified. It's a little bit like, in order to avail, as I said, if you are getting ready to go somewhere, you got to organize things and sort things out. But some of the things that are going to come up are not as simple as busy, mundane logistics of going somewhere. They are more complicated, but they continue to be supportive of this Taurus North Node, which is what is so fascinating. When I look at the transits that are coming up, they are astonishingly, apart from Venus conjuncting Mercury retrograde and these wrinkles appearing that we need to smooth over the next 3 weeks with this Mercury retrograde, which still continues to trine the North Node and Uranus as it goes retrograde. The other transit is that the Sun in Capricorn trines the North Node on the 31st. This North Node trine through Capricorn continues to be illumined, and all through January, Mercury as it goes retrograde trines, as when it goes direct, trines. So the portal is real, it's there, the forward development is there. Whatever has come through in Capricorn wants to support the Taurus part of your chart. It wants expression, and it wants to inaugurate your new year and move it forward. But with this Mercury retrograde, we have got to deal with some stuff. It's not just stuff. There are wrinkles and there are things that need to be dealt with. And by the time Mercury goes direct January 19th and you head towards the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, after that Aquarius new moon, that is when, by the time you get through January 21st and even into February, the early part of February, first couple of weeks, the first 10 days of February, is when you get the all clear to board the flight. The important thing is, for you, and this is a personal thing, I can't tell you what to do, for you to be clear about what that portal is, what that vision is that Venus in Capricorn has presented to you supporting the North Node in Taurus. And trying to make sure, as wrinkles have to be dealt with over the next 3 weeks or so, that you use that as your compass to deal with the challenges, and I'm going to underline and bold the word challenges, that this Mercury retrograde is going to bring up. Okay? We're going to continue to talk about the Mercury retrograde and future transits. Actually, I'm going to next week do one on the first week heading to the full moon in Cancer, the transits in the first week of January. But for now, as we head into the next few days, I just want you to keep this much in mind. The sun trines the North Node. That development sense inside continues to remain illuminated. Venus, who's created these blessings in Capricorn, acknowledges with Mercury retrograde that there are wrinkles and challenges that need to be dealt with before you can board the flight sometime in February. But Venus has done her bit. She conjuncts Pluto, says, hi, I did my best to continue your positive transformation in the Capricorn part of your chart. I'm out of here, heading into Uranus. And Mercury retrograde says, all right, let's deal with and let me bring to the surface what I need to, so that you can contend with what you need to contend with, so that your 2023 can start in the direction that we have presented to you. The question is, will you keep that direction in mind as you deal with these challenges so that you overcome them and are not waylaid by them? Okay? Feel free to share, like, comment on the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already, and click on the bell icon, the wiggly part when you click on the bell, so that you're notified when I do new videos, and more to follow. Thanks.